using our typical beautiful video quality or edits and stuff like that. We're just doing a straight live stream this week. Busy times. I thought I'd get some content anyways because it is a big pay-per-view, but we're doing this right here live. And if you have any questions, happy to answer in the comment section during the video. But I just thought I'd go over here, give you my typical breakdowns from entire fight card opportunities, betting, DraftKings, cover all that things. And as always, will be live and posted to the channel after, time-stamped with the ability to answer any questions in the comments section as well. Before I dive in, I want to mention a couple things. As always, make sure to check out Establish the Run for my premium DraftKings content podcast over there with Brett Appley, as well as CoolBet. Check them out using code Gordo. Link is in the description down below. With all out of the way, let's talk about this fight card. Like I said, in Salt Lake City, we do have ourselves some high elevation. We do have ourselves some title fight, and we do have ourselves an interesting card. Not my favorite one from a betting or DraftKings perspective. I'm going to be quite honest. There's some tough fights to break down. We have fights nonetheless. Let's get into them, starting off with our very first fight of the night. We have ourselves a battle of the older folk, let's put it that way, in the 33-16-1 Tim Means versus the 21-13 Court McGee. This fight would be very different if it was a few years ago, but we do have two guys who are on a little bit of a losing streak, being older in their career, and I think they bring different styles to the cage. It's not like one of them is going to be older than the other. They're the same age. They're going out there born the same year, and they bring different styles. Dirty Bird's a guy who wants to go out there, use volume, damage, look to hurt you, and has looked in decent form recently, has been fighting some solid level of competition, and has to come to some grappling because of it, has to come to some power in the feet. But Court McGee as well has fought some hardships. Court McGee doesn't have that same bruiser style or like fighting in a bar style that someone like Dirty Bird does have, but he does have some solid wrestling, a good wrestle boxer as a whole, and someone who I do think has some good meat and potato striking, can go out there and compete. The way I see this fight going down is pretty simple. I think although Court McGee can have some wrestling success, I think the size, the length, and just the optics that someone like Tim Means gives off is just better to win a fight like this. Judges have been favoring that damage over control recently, and I just think optically Tim Means is able to win a fight, especially from distance, with his volume, with his ability to dig deep. I do not see a finish happening too often from either side. Both guys have been pretty durable. Court McGee doesn't have that one-shot power to put away Tim Means like people have in the past. I think because of that, Tim Means is able to go out there, utilize his volume, his length, and his striking to win the optics and win a decision in this fight here. I think it's an interesting one. I think if anyone's going to have wrestling success, it's going to be Court McGee, but he isn't the best pure jiu-jitsu guy to submit a guy like Means, like a Kevin Holland did or somebody like that. So give me someone like Means in the spot here. I will also share the odds. Voila. There we go. And we do ourselves a larger favorite in Means. It seems like the line does agree with me here, with it being a fight that goes the distance, with it being Means by decision plus 135. I think that seems to be all okay. DraftKings-wise, we do have ourselves a very heavily priced Means, and if I just mentioned, I expect him to go and win by decision a lot of the time. I'm not getting to too much of him on DraftKings. Yes, he did score 122 against Fiallo, but has put up 78 points to win versus Dalby. Hasn't been always the best that way too. So he does have a ceiling to hit. I just don't think he's able to hit it a ton of the time. So at 9K, I'd rather play other people around him. Whereas Court McGee, I think he has a wrestling path to victory. I think he is a live underdog to win the fight, but he himself has not been the best volume guy. I think he gets out volumed toward 88 in a win against Silva in that spot here. I just think he loses the fight. So as a whole, in a fight that I do expect with a distance, one where I do favor Means, I think the price tag is a bit too high on DraftKings, so I won't be getting to either of them that often. Next fight up, we have ourselves another battle of an older guy here, 27-17 Ovin St. Preux versus the 21-10 Ryan Spann. And, I'm not the biggest fan of either of these guys, especially Ryan Spann, a guy who I have been fading in the past. I have made some money fading him. I've lost some money betting against him, and that's because I think he's just a horrible nail. He's a great hammer. He's able to go forward. He's got phenomenal finishing instinct. Let's not get that wrong. Amazing power, great athleticism, and a very good opportunistic submission game. But he can be hit. His durability is not all there. He can be controlled on the ground. He can be submitted and put in precarious situations. And even at that, his cardio isn't great. But he's extremely explosive early on. He has the opportunities to go out there and take anybody's head off. And he has some decent opportunistic submissions if people shoot in on him. OSP is getting up there in age. He has that title run in his back pocket. He is still someone who has had the opportunity to go out there and land the Von Preux choke and have some success that way too. But still a guy who I think is up there in age. There was a reason he was a massive underdog to Kennedy Nzechukwu last time. And although he was able to kind of go back and show that he can still throw a ton of volume and be an old version of himself, is still a guy who I think was an underdog for a reason. And at the spot it is now here, although I'm not the biggest fan of him, I do favor Ryan Spann to go out here and get the job done. He's just way too athletic, in my opinion. He's going to be too explosive early on. I think he's going to have the opportunity to go out there, blitz OSP, utilize that power. If OSP shoots, have the guillotine to put his lights out. And just a spot where, let's not forget that just recently it was OSP going out there and being finished early. Was knocked out by Linz in the first round. Was knocked out by Tanner Bozer, which is never going to look at. And I love Tanner Bozer, but a spot where I do favor Ryan Spann. And I do think in hindsight, if we look back and be like, wow, Spann killed this older guy in OSP, no one's going to be surprised. However, I do think the line is wide. I do not like playing Spann at chalk. DraftKings wise, 9.2K Ryan Spann, I think has a ton of upside. I think if we look at everybody in this top range, aside from the three big three, I think he's got way more upside than Means. I like him a bit more than Buckley and Pennington as well. I think he stands out as a great GPP option, but he is extremely boomer bust because if he does not get that first round finish, he likely scores 60, 70 points, or maybe even gets finished in those later rounds. So extremely robust, but a ton of first round finish upside. So I will be playing some of him on DraftKings. St. Preux actually has a good chance to win, and at 7K allows for a lot of other options in your lineups, but I'm not really struggling for underdogs this week, so I won't be forcing him too much. I think his path to victory is later success, so I'm not getting to him too much as a punt play. I prefer other guys down low who we will talk about, but the pick is Spann. Don't have much confidence because I hate picking him in general, but a guy who I do think has more athleticism, has more power, and more ability to blitz early and finish an older guy in OSP. Shout out to Frank. Yeah, usually we do a Wednesday DraftKings show. This will be postponed temporarily, and because of that, we still have a ton of content here, a ton of content established to run, but still putting out a lot of the work for these videos. Let's move on to the next fight of the night on the prelims. Again, we've been talking a lot about these aging fighters: Tim Means, Corey McGee, Vince St. Preux, Carla Esparza, 19-7, Tisha Pennington, 13-7. It feels like a 2018 card. I'm not going to lie, but one where we do have the retirement fight of Carla Esparza, a former challenger or title holder. Someone who is making a final battle here and is an underdog in the process. It's actually the first time really looking at a lot of these lines, so interested to see that. But we do have a girl here in Tisha Pennington whose wife is fighting on the card as well for the belt, and a very interesting fight between two different dynamics, right? You look at the style Carla Esparza brings. We know she wants to go out there and chain wrestle. Very good top control, very good ability to take people down to the ground from top position, can land damage, can threaten submissions, but someone who is just excelling on the ground. On the feet, does not have much to offer unless Rose just wants to sit back and put on the most boring fight of all time. She can do that. But someone who wants to take it down to the ground will be aggressive enough to take it down to the ground, and someone whose style is rooted in wrestling success. Tisha Pennington, someone who is a bit different. She wants to do all her work on the feet. She's extremely aggressive, a ton of volume, a ton of mobility, side-to-side movement, and is just very active at that. Is getting up there in age as well, but someone who I do think utilizes her energy, her explosiveness, and her volume upside to go out there and have success. Someone who doesn't really want to fight in the mat, has a good get-up game to avoid getting it to the mat, and although it was a very close call last time, was stalled against the cage. Although I think that having Tisha Torres as a favorite here is realistic. I think she's got the lateral movement, the better cardio, and the volume to win a damage versus control fight. I'm surprised to see her as wide it is. I think it's a close to a pick 'em fight, and I'm actually going to side with Carla Esparza here in this one. I don't say that with too much confidence, but when you go out here and you look at my style of picking fights, especially as a drafting player, I tend to favor my wrestlers. People can go out there and steal rounds with that top control and a damage from top position. And Carla Esparza retirement fight, that is scary, but I think that the line is too wide because of it. I think she can go out there, shoot takedowns, be aggressive, dominant from top position. I do like someone like Carla Esparza this week. I think she is a very, very light underdog to get it done. And although I probably not get to the betting window backing an older fighter in her retirement fight, I do think she has a path of the wrestling with the cage control, as we just saw someone do that to Tisha Torres not too long ago. So didn't think I'd say give me Carla Esparza in this one. DraftKings wise, yeah, I think it's dog or pass. Tisha Torres does not have the most DraftKings upside. Sorry, I keep calling her Torres. Tisha Pennington, sorry. Not the most DraftKings upside. 97 again in win against Hill, 70 in a win against Fortino. If she would have won her last one, which people think she did, she would have only scored 64 points. And at 8.7K, I think there are many better plays around her. Underdog wise, though, I think Esparza is one of them. She has been historically great when she's winning on DraftKings. 137 points against Gianni Noun, 101 against Rodriguez, 99 against Grosso. She has some very solid wins, and I do think at 7.5K is an extremely live underdog to go out there, have wrestling success, and a high DraftKings score doing so. Give me Carla Esparza on DraftKings. Next up, we have ourselves we're getting a bit younger again here. 14-8, Alexander Hernandez. 16-7, Austin Hubbard. Two vets again, though. Let's be completely honest. What we have here, two vets, and one where we do have ourselves a closely lined fight. This one I have a bit more of a take on. This one, I know it's been extremely hard to trust Alexander Hernandez recently. 1-4 in his last 5, has fought very good level of competition, but has been fighting these guys who have been able to go out there and out cardio him, outwork him down the stretch. At his core, Alexander Hernandez is a phenomenal explosive athlete, has a ton of power, a very good blast double, has the ability to go out there fighting the ground as well, but someone who just loses it down the stretch, can be out volume, can be put in precarious situations. And when you're going out there and you're fighting decent level of competition, Billy Quarantillo, who will push an insane pace, Damon Jackson, who has wrestling upside, Aljo, who will push an insane pace, Renato Moicano, who's on a huge streak, it's tough to go out there and build a name for yourself. However, now when he's going out there and he's taking a step down in competition, knocking out Gruchmacher bad, knocked out Benil Dariush in his debut, beat Miller in that spot here as well. I think he still is a very good fighter at his core who has got really bad matchups. And I do think he has the hand speed advantage of this matchup, the pure wrestling advantage of this matchup, and is facing a guy who we should have a clear striking and ability to win this fight here. The fear for me in this one is the cardio with it being an elevation, but I do not think Austin Hubbard pushes the pace necessary to go out there and secure him a victory in that way. He is making a second return here. He did lose to Hollowbound on Delta Fighter, but did get a win against Fidiglak last time. Is a guy who is just pretty well-rounded everywhere. Not the best takedowns, not the best defensive grappling, not the best striking, but can compete, is well-rounded in all areas, and has decent durability, decent cardio to go out there and have some success. He will push through the fire. He will go out there and look to break you. And although he has the durability like someone like Billy Quarantillo, he doesn't necessarily push the same pace. I think for that reason, Alexander Hernandez can stay safe, can be the guy going forward, landing the better, quicker, powerful shots on the feet, kind of like a Miller versus Hernandez spot where Hernandez was just quicker to this punch here. I do think if there's any wrestling, I do favor Alexander Hernandez. I do think he's the guy who has more physicality to his game, and I have seen Hubbard taken down and put in precarious situations before. I am picking Alexander Hernandez to get it done. Round 3 at elevation is terrifying. I do think Hubbard has a better cardio, but I do think Hernandez can stay in it. I think it's a step down in competition towards his previous opponents, and I do think Hernandez can get it done here. Always tough to trust, but I am pretty confident he does get it done. DraftKings-wise, 8.6. With the durability of both of them, I think it's tough to trust. This could look a lot like the Miller fight where Hernandez went out there and scored 79 points, which would not be optimal on a slate like this, but he does have upside. He is someone who has these first-round knockouts, who has a ton of power, so he is a secondary pivot play in the mid-range. Hubbard, not a guy I'm getting to too often. I guess you could argue he has cardio upside and ability to fight later into fights, but still a guy who I don't think I'm getting to too often. I prefer A.S. Barza, who I picked outright, or other people in this range here. I do think Hernandez wins. Does he cover a drafting salary? Maybe not, but a guy who I am picking to win here. Next fight up, we have ourselves the GOAT, the 21-6 Euro Pereira versus the 5-1 Cesar Almeida. And if you guys have been following the channel for a while, you guys know I've made a quick buck fading Euro Pereira. I've had a lot of success doing so. A guy who I think was very big and powerful in the regional scene against some lower level of competition, but getting that step up, is slower to the punch, is someone who can be hit. And although he could take those shots from guys in the regional scene, when you're facing Carlos Ulberg, when you're facing these big, powerful guys, that's not always as easy to do, right? He has put on some very interesting performance. That fight against Bellato was absolutely insane, but a guy who does fade down the stretch, a guy who throws all defense out the window, is extremely hittable, a guy who can be taken down and put in precarious situations as well. He doesn't really excel at too much unless he's facing a Shogun Rua, who is on out the door already. He does have solid fundamental grappling. He does have very good power on the feet he's able to land. He's just typically slower to the punch and willing to eat one to give two, if that makes sense. Cesar Almeida, former glory kickboxer, phenomenal kickboxer, and a guy who does have a ton of power in his hands, ton of ability to go out there and win exchanges in that regard, and a guy who I do think is going to be at a clear technicality advantage and power advantage in this spot here. You guys know me. I'm not one to really pick Euro Pereira. I'm picking Cesar Almeida in this spot. The line might be a bit wide. You know, it was way close. I think it was closer when Ulberg fought, right? But the game plan is there. Almeida is someone who's going to be quicker to the punch, have the ability to make reads, have leg kicks there, and just an opponent in front of him is there to be hit. I'm not completely sold on Almeida at all. I think he has his flaws, but I think he's durable. I think he pushes through it. I think he hits very, very hard. And against a guy in Pereira who will throw all defense to the side, I think Almeida wins this fight at a pretty high clip. DraftKings wise, it's tricky though, because 9.4K Cesar Almeida, I do think he wins. Just how long does Pereira survive? You have Alex Pereira above him. You have Kayla Harrison above him. You have someone with round one upside right below you in Ryan Spann. It's tough for me to get up there and pay for Cesar Almeida, although I do think he wins, and I think he has a ton of upside in his win. However, he has never scored above 93 points, small sample size, but a guy who I do think is extremely boomer bust. I do think he's going to hold decent ownership, so I'm scared to plug him in too much, but another very solid option up top. Extremely boomer bust with KO upside, but a guy who will be playing. Pereira, I think he's a punt play if you need to for the salary relief. But like I said, plenty of underdogs I'm liking this week, so I'm not getting into too often. However, if Pereira does win, it should score very well and should come at low ownership. All right, let's keep it rolling with a very interesting fight, in my opinion. The 17-4-2 Marina Rodriguez, 16-5 Yasmin Lucindo. I was shocked by this one, just straight up. I'll skip right to it. Yasmin Lucindo is a minus 190 favorite in this spot here. Someone who has, yes, been on a phenomenal tear, but Marina Rodriguez, former potential title challenger. I mean, she was lined up to have a shot there, has wins over some very good level of competition. And someone whose losses come to Jessica Andrade, Verna Jandiroba, Amanda Lemos, Carlo Esparza. That's a very elite list of names that you're losing to. Has some very good solid wins in the record, and I'm surprised to see that. Upon watching the tape, you kind of understand why. I mean, the volume, the speed, the durability, the potential ground game for Lucindo has been there. I think that ground game that I alluded to is the reason why she's the favorite here. As Marina Rodriguez has been mauled on the mat, she has lost minutes, optics there, and has been stuck in bottom position. And the youth of Lucindo, who not only can compete on the feet, but excel on the ground, I think that's why she's the favorite here. However, to this extent, I'm a bit shocked. I still favor Marina Rodriguez in a 15-minute kickboxing affair. She hits heavy. She's a ton of volume. She's a ton of range, too, and has this high level of experience that I don't think Lucindo necessarily has. I mean, it's a big step up going from someone like I guess Carolina Kokiewicz, not bad, but Polyana Viana, Brogan Walker, like those are some interesting level of competition to go up to someone like Marina Rodriguez. I'm torn. I think it's a much closer fight, so maybe the line's wide. I am still going to pick Yasmin Lucindo, gun to my head, because she does have a grappling path to victory, but if the line keeps climbing, like I think it's a bit disrespectful to Marina Rodriguez, who has such credible striking, has such good range, has the ability to compete here as well, and has fought against such a high level of competition. We'll see if this pick even changes as the week goes on, but I do typically lean towards people who can grapple. Someone like Lucindo does check all these boxes here, and although the line is wide, I do have to go out here and pick her. Betting wise, minus 300 to go the distance. You could probably get some crazy lines on some Lucindo submission or something like that against someone whose path to victory does come on the ground. Who knows if I'll get there? I think it is a pretty sloppy fight, but I did slightly lean towards Lucindo, although I do think the line is just wrong, if I'm being completely honest. DraftKings wise, though, because I said that line's wrong, 8.6K, not getting into it too often, has never scored above 94 points against a much lesser level of competition. I think there are much better plays around her. Not getting to Lucindo. I think Marina Rodriguez is very live. I think in order to win this fight, she needs volume, and at 7.6K, she is much more affordable. I mean, against a solid wrestler like Dern or solid grappler like Dern, she still scored 88 points. I think she is going to be hard to come to the optimal lineup, but in terms of underdogs who have paths to victory, she is certainly one of them. I do think she has upside to win this fight. Picks Lucindo line is off. Then the prelim headliner, the 17-7-1 Stephen Thompson versus the 19-6 Joaquin Buckley. This is another really tough one because, let's face it, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson is a phenomenal striker. We have seen Buckley outstruck by plenty of people, if we're being honest, whether it be Kevin Holland or even knocked out by Ishirico there. And it's crazy to say that you have a big favorite here like Buckley because he is going to be so outmatched against the style and the talent and the striking of Wonderboy Thompson. But getting up there in age, facing someone in Buckley who just went out there and wrestled at an extremely high pace, high clip, high velocity with those takedowns, it seems like there is someone in Buckley who has a clear path to success. Now, as long as this fight's on the feet, I think you got to pick Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Much better volume, much better range control, much better technicality, and you do think he wins that. But Stephen Thompson has been taken down, has been put in precarious situations, has lost fights exclusively on the ground, albeit to better competitions than Joaquin Buckley. But not only does Buckley have the capability to take him down here, but has shown the willingness to grapple, the willingness to go out there and shoot blast doubles and land them and have good top control for top position. I'm stuck on this one. Like the previous fight, I think the line is extremely wide, but I still depict Joaquin Buckley. I think he's a clear path. I lined him more around like a minus 140, minus 150 favorite because he has such a clear path, but still is going to be at such a clear disadvantage on the feet. I just think the disadvantage on the ground is larger than the disadvantage on the feet here. I think Buckley still has the ability to go out there and compete in the striking, whereas on the mat, it's Buckley all day. So Thompson should win all these fight on the feet. I'm interested to see how this fight plays out. If Thompson had more of that like one-shot knockout power like a D'Chirico did or a Holland did, maybe I would choose him. But as a guy who's mostly going to want to pitter-patter from the outside, utilize his lateral movement, I think the bigger moments are going to be from the power shots of Buckley and the takedowns that he will land here. DraftKings wise, Buckley 8.8K just went out there, scored 114 against Rozabayev, so in theory has a very good clear path to victory. He has wrestling upside. He has scored very well in the past, and I do think because of that is a very solid play on DraftKings. It's just the issue is just how strong the range is. Like Span has round run upside. Above him, you got Almeida, Pereira, and Harrison. The way my builds are working out, it's hard to get into him. If you want to target this mid-range, he's a phenomenal play, but it is tough to get to him. However, I do think his ceiling is very, very high. Thompson, like I said, should win this fight more than the line entails. And when he has won, he scored 109, 102, 95. Like those are some pretty good scores here on DraftKings. So if this fight stays on the feet, it'll look like a hindsight smash play on DraftKings. But I did pick Buckley, so for that reason, I'm going to stay more towards him. I prefer Esparza's right above him. Other people who may talk about later in the slate as well. But a guy, Thompson, who is extremely viable, just not my favorite play in the entire slate. Let's keep it going to the main card here. We have ourselves the 13-3 Roman Dolidze, 26-11 Kevin Holland. And this is like an extremely tough fight to call, one that I've seen broken down from many angles this week. But what it really comes down to is the striking, the range, the volume of Kevin Holland, but more importantly, the stupidity of someone like Kevin Holland, a guy who will believe himself to be hit, a guy who can be taken down, a guy who won't engage if the fight's on the ground, and a guy who does definitely have his flaws. He's big mouth, he's fun to watch, entertaining, but facing a guy like Roman Dolidze in front of him who can take a beating coming his way, can throw back with fighting and intention, can walk you down, and can grapple to a very, very high level, I think this fight's extremely interesting. I love Holland. I backed him before. I bet him against Michael Venom Page. That was a horrible bet on my end. I've learned from that. But I think the style in this one is a bit different. Kevin Holland is used to being the guy going forward, landing at the end of his punches. And when he's butt on the back foot, when he's being a bit reckless, he can be caught. I mean, he was just dropped by Mikhail Zaechek until he snapped his arm. He has been hit with a lot. He's extremely durable, but he can lose optics that way as well. He doesn't always fight to the best of his abilities. And because of that, I think not only does Dolidze have a potential ability to utilize his strength in the clinch, potentially win positions on the ground, but also compete with volume on the feet. I don't mind a guy like Dolidze here in the spot, and I do think this line's maybe a bit off. I did slide with Dolidze. I do think it should be close. I think it should be close to 50-50 due to that IQ and range of Holland. I think Holland could very much go out there, utilize that range volume, pick him apart, win the striking that way too. I just don't see him finishing him. I don't see him going out there and just styling on him. And on the ground and in the clinch, I favor a guy like Dolidze. Additionally, Dolidze is a guy who walked down Vettori, potentially won that matchup too, and I think has the ability to compete in the striking, land the big shots, and just be a moment winner that way too against a guy in Holland who is just there to be hit, right? Not the most defensively sound. So I ended up picking Dolidze in this one, which is weird because I have been a very big Kevin Holland fan, but that's the way my breakdown led me to. Should be a very close, entertaining fight. DraftKings wise, I think you can make a case for both sides on DraftKings, whether it be the volume of Holland going out there and scoring pretty well, or just the underdog upside of Dolidze, who has, like I said, cage control upside, a volume upside, and let's say ground success upside, right? He went out there and he landed 71 strikes against Vettori, maybe not the best score, but in his finished wins has scored very, very well. 82 against Smith last time too. I think he's a punt play, a fine play in the mid-range, a guy who I will be getting to because I'm picking him to win his underdog, but an interesting fight to say the least. Next fight up, we have ourselves the 17-1 Kayla Harrison versus the 14-3 Ketlin Vieira, the biggest favorite on this card, and the girl who will be, I think, backing up the main event here, or co-main event, sorry. Kayla Harrison, one of the, I think the biggest women's MMA prospect, a phenomenal fighter, multiple-time gold medalist, world champion, is just extremely physical, huge, powerful slams, trips, a phenomenal ground game, and just someone who has been able to dominate all these fighters from the PFL to her first couple of times here in the UFC. She's just looked incredible, and her strength, her size, her judo have led her to have a lot of success here. And now she takes on someone in Ketlen Vieira, who I don't want to say is a weaker fighter, but doesn't have necessarily anywhere near the same amount of height. Someone who has lost to the current champion Raquel Pennington, someone who's lost to Yana Santos, who's been taken down in a couple spots, who does have very solid takedown defense at 92%, but has yet to fight someone to the caliber of someone like Kayla Harrison, someone with the physicality that she does, and is a big favorite for that reason. I don't know how much I'm going to get there at a minus 1,200 price tag on the money line, but a spot where I do pick Kayla Harrison. I do think she is the UFC's prize right now, wanting to rope back in Nunes for that big money shot, but someone who should win the ground exchanges, will dominate the clinch exchanges, has very good top control, very good jiu-jitsu as well, and should be winning this fight a very, very large majority of the time, especially at elevation where Vieira has struggled a bit with cardio. So give me Kayla Harrison, no hot take there. I'm picking her to win. DraftKings-wise, though, that's a big question because she's got a huge salary beside her name, and although she put up 112 last time, is that enough at 9.8K against a potentially better I don't want to say better than Holly Holm, but someone who is physical at elevation. I think she's going to need a perfect performance. Like I said, I don't mind Cesar Almeida and Ryan Span's like first round winning upside. So she's definitely perfectly viable in cash, but I'm not jamming her into every lineup. I think there's definitely times where she's phased out of the optimal lineup due to salary constraints. And I think it's going to take a perfect performance for her to land there. Do I think she does it? Probably. I think if it's in cash single entry, you're getting to her. But if you want to get a bit different in GBP, I do not blame you. You would definitely go otherwise there. Vieira, let's just move on. Next fight up, we have ourselves the 32-8 Jose Aldo, 14-2 Mario Bautista. This fight's going to talk of the town. A lot of love for Jose Aldo, and I completely understand. I've bet on Jose Aldo a lot recently, but I've been profitable doing so. But a guy who is just this phenomenal striker, and sure, he was on a little bit of a losing streak before his first retirement, right? Losing to Marab, Jan, Mariah, Volkanovski, but listen to that list of names. He has fought amazing level of competition, is still potentially the GOAT for this weight class, and has still this phenomenal counter striking, this amazing body work, and this incredible takedown defense. And just a phenomenal fighter. Mario Bautista has been on an absolute roll. He's got a great ground game. He's got the ability to go out there and strike in the feet as well. A ton of volume, great work rate, great cardio. But still a guy who's there to be hit, was submitted by a guy in Sanhagen, was knocked out by Jones viciously in the second round there, but a guy who does fight at a very high pace. Now, I've mentioned a few times before, the guy who was Mario Bautista's manager deserves a raise, right? Jay Perrin, Brian Kelleher, Guido Canetti, Lopez, that's the easiest stretch of fighters I've ever seen in my entire life. But he has earned his stripes against Ricky Simon, Damon Blackshear, has worked really hard on that fight. And I get why he's a favorite in theory, because he has the striking, he has the volume, and he has the grappling to win a spot like this here. But really, are we really thinking that Jose Aldo is going to lose a nicely based striking affair here? I don't know. I don't want to fall for the trap because I've seen so much love for someone like Jose Aldo, and it seems like everyone's on him this week and the line's not moving, but I think he wins the striking exchanges. I think the leg kicks are there. I think Jose Aldo has better durability. I think he has the ability to make reads as the fight goes on. And in terms of the grappling, like Jose Aldo has phenomenal takedown defense. There's no need to go out there and dispute that. So I don't think Barry Maltese can have too much ground success here. So for that reason, like Blackshear was having success on the feet against him, I think Aldo can for sure. I think he can make his reads, utilize the body work, potentially open his hands up to a submission as well, and just put on a vintage Jose Aldo performance. He has a great. I'm picking Aldo. It could be something that everyone's doing this week, but I just don't understand him being the underdog in this spot here. What I will say, though, is DraftKings-wise, Mario Bautista is a phenomenal contrarian play because there's so much love for Aldo. There's so much love for other people in this range that at 8.5K, he may go overlooked, and his path to victory is volume and grappling. I mean, he scored 111 against Canetti, 118 against Lopez, 103 against Perrin. Like, he has a high volume, high pace, high grappling upside, path to victory, and a win, and that is a very good contrarian play if you want to get to him. However, in cash, I'm playing a ton of Jose Aldo. I think he has to go out there and strikes a very high clip. 73 against Martinez wasn't the best last time, but still someone who has great ability to make his reads, strike at a very high clip, and I do think should put up a 70 to 80 point win if I'm predicting this correctly. So pick us Jose Aldo. There's something fishy about it, but I do think he's able to get it done here. On to the co-main event, we have the 16-8 Raquel Pennington, 10-5 Juliana Pena, and this is honestly the hardest one for me to call, and truthfully because I just don't have the best read on either fighter. I thought Mary Silva had the danger factor, the volume and the pace to go out there and beat someone like Pennington, and I did pick her in that event that I was at live. But going out here and now seeing her as a large favorite as the belt holder, it's very interesting. Juliana Pena has been able to defy odds. Greatest upset of all time, in my opinion. Beating Nunes like that, I don't want to bring that up. But someone who very high work rate, very good durability, solid wrestling, solid volume, but extremely hittable. Not the best like submission fighter at all. Someone who is just opportunistic, very aggressive, and has a ton of heart, right? And she can talk in the mic pretty well. We'll put it that way. But Raquel Pennington, someone who is fighting as the hometown fighter, holding the belt, is someone who has proven cage control to success, has her path to victory labeled out in every fight. It's cage push people, be more physical, land shots there, potentially grapple them, be able to compete in the feet with volume as well, and just be a pretty bullyish fighter that way with their physicality. And in a spot like this, although I think that this could go a multitude of ways, I've gotten Juliana Pena fights wrong all the time. I'm picking Pennington. I think Pennington has the ability to go out there, utilize that cage pushing success, win the striking exchanges, and be the hometown fighter with some really good cardio. And I just don't really know where Pena is better than Pennington. Maybe in the pure jiu-jitsu or maybe in the pure heart and cardio. But even at that, Pennington's got cardio. She's got heart. I think that Pennington's a better striker, better cage pusher, better control grappler, and someone who should win this fight here in front of the home crowd. I'm picking her to win. She should get it done. Not that much conviction. 8.4K, though, I will be playing her straight up. Scored 145 against Silva. That's the 1 5-rounder she has a win on her record. Other than that, 83, that's only 3 rounds, 93, 94. Like, she has a ton of upside, especially with takedowns, volume, and a fighter in front of her who will just force win exchanges. I do like myself some Pennington at 8.4K. Cash, even in tournament, I do think she has a ton of upside. I will be getting to her. All right, let's move on to this main event here. We have ourselves the 11-2 Alex Pereira, 13-5 Khalil Rountree. Very surprise main event spot here. All power to Khalil Rountree for getting the shot here. I hope it does the most with it, but it's hard to predict these ones, right? Sean Strickland, no one thought he was going to win against Adesanya, and he pulled that one out. I'll do an off night. So you never want to say there is a lock of someone to win here because it's fighting. People can have off nights. People can get caught. Rountree does have a ton of power, but you got to pick Alex Pereira here. The way better credential kickboxer. Khalil Rountree is the same guy who has been out muscled, out physical, even knocked out in certain spots here. Let's not forget he lost a decision to Marcin Prachnio, knocked out by Walker, has been dropped in certain spots, fought in close decisions. Although he has a ton of power, although he's very explosive, although he's a fun fighter to watch, is not on the same striking level as Alex Pereira. It does not have the pure wrestling to dominate Alex Pereira there, and the physicality of Pereira, the counter striking, and the ability to hit her and make reads, make him the favorite he is. Like I said, no such thing in a lock in MMA, but I'm not picking an upset here. I'm picking the favorite here in Pereira. I see a lot of love for Rountree, and all power to you. I just can't get there. The pick is Alex Pereira. DraftKings-wise, though, Pereira fights are so tough to call. Usually sitting at the 8.2 mark. It was 8.5, scored 107. 8.3, scored 109. 7.6, scored 92. 83, scored 110. Like, the guy's always in the mid-range, and he's always extremely boomer bust. Now he's at 9.6K in another spot where he is extremely boomer bust. Like, yes, he can go out there and get a first-round knockout, but if he doesn't, he's not making the optimal lineup, and it's not even coming even close. So at 9.6K, it's going to be boomer bust. I prefer Kayla Harrison. I honestly prefer the boomer bust upside of Spann or Almeida in this spot here. Although Pereira should win this fight at a high clip and is a decent cash option and has the potential. Like, don't get me wrong, he has 100% has the ability to go out there and score well and make the optimal lineup. At his popularity, at the price range, at his standpoint, I think he could very well be phased out. If he gets a second round knockout, scores 90 points, he's not making it. So I'm not extremely bullish on him. I can go elsewhere. Rountree, I think, is a punt play and a half because we've seen bigger upsets, and he does have power. We have seen Pereira rocked, but I don't think it happens too often, so a dart throw and a half. I think Pereira wins this fight. I think he's a solid play on DraftKings, but not a game too often. Honestly, will probably be underweight compared to the field in this spot here on him. But that's going to do it for me here on the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. Quickly ran through everything. 34 minutes. Appreciate everybody hanging out and everybody checking it out after the fact as well. As always, let me run you through my quick picks. Again, Alex Pereira, Raquel Pennington, Jose Aldo, Kayla Harrison, Roman Dolidze, Joaquin Buckley, Yasmin Lucindo in a very close one there, Cesar Almeida, Alexander Hernandez, Carla Esparza, Ryan Spann, and Tim Means. Excuse me. In terms of my favorite DraftKings plays up top, if you can afford it, Kayla Harrison, but perfect play. I prefer the GPP upside, someone like a Spann, Almeida, or even Joaquin Buckley. In the mid-range, Hernandez I like. Mario Bautista is like my favorite contrarian play, but not forcing in every lineups. Person I am forcing a lot, though, I do like Raquel Pennington at 8.4K. Underdog-wise, I think Dolidze has upside. I think Jose Aldo and Rodriguez are very similar, as if they have, honestly, Aldo, Rodriguez, and Steven Thompson are all very close in terms of plays. Like, they don't have the 120-point upside, but they have solid cash floors. They should win more than their fights entail. They're just completely limited to striking upside. Out of the three, I do prefer Aldo. Down low, I love Carla Esparza on the wrestling upside. I think the dart throws this week are OSP and Rountree to close it out there. Betting wise, do not have anything locked in yet, but make sure to check me out on Twitter at GamblesGordo to see anything I might play there. As always, check out Established to run for my premium DraftKings content with Brett Appley over there, and check out CoolBet using code Gordo down below. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. I wish you all the best of luck in all your DraftKings and betting endeavors. Enjoy the fights. We will see you next Monday night, for some Dana White Contender Series. Let's have a good one, guys. Let's make some money.